Have you guys ever been at a party and you accidentally stutter on a word, or you make a joke that didn't land, or maybe you trip up the stairs a little bit, or maybe you do that thing where you try to get into a conversation so you keep saying the same word like 3 times in a row, but nobody's really letting you into the conversation? And then do you guys also do that thing where you replay that small moment, that 0.2 second moment over and over in your head for the rest of the party? And to the point where when you're driving home, you're still thinking about it, or when you're finally laying in bed, you're still thinking about it. And then months from now, you're still thinking about it. And you are just assuming that everybody else is also thinking about it and laughing at you and making all of these harsh judgments about you. I do that all the time. I do that almost every single time I am in the view of somebody else or if I am conversing with other people, especially at a big social event. And I used to think that I was so embarrassing, that I would always do something that was so embarrassing that everybody else was going to notice. But the most embarrassing part of this is realizing that nobody even gave it a second thought. Nobody really cared about my embarrassing moment the way that I made myself care about it. I set up this replay in my own mind, and then I made my own judgments about myself because of it. So, this week, we're going to talk about the audience that you invented in your mind. The one watching you way more closely than any real person ever has. You're listening to How to Live with Care. This is the show about becoming who you're trying to be without pretending the process is clean. So, last week we got into how we cast other people into specific characters and how quick we are to hand somebody that verdict. She's rude, he's lustful, they're a bad friend. But this week we're going to do the exact same thing, but flipped. Last week was I think I can read everyone, and this week is going to be I think everyone is reading me. It's the same ego, just a different direction. And this is the version that's been quietly running you your entire life. So I think we can all think back on tons and tons of moments where we have just changed our behavior and changed the things that we were going to be doing just because we thought somebody else was going to notice it and judge us for it. I'm talking changing that outfit like 4 different times, even though that first outfit was honestly the most comfortable, just because we thought that somebody would judge us for it. Or that text that you sent to somebody and you didn't really get that response that you were anticipating back from them. So you just create this harsh judgment about yourself. It's those moments where you feel the most cringe. I'm talking when you are up late at night and you can't sleep and your eyes just widen really big and you're like, oh my gosh, thinking about that time from 4 years ago from when I accidentally tripped at my graduation or something like that. And it could even be something so small too. Like for me, I think that my laugh comes off really weird sometimes in conversations. And then I just replay that same like 0.1 second of my laugh, like on repeat in my head, like, ha, 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 Or even whenever you're like just walking into a place, like you're walking into a social event and you just feel like everybody is judging you from the moment that you walk in. And these moments, whether it be those or the millions of other moments that I haven't even named, we just replay them in our heads constantly. And we are all just walking around convinced that there is this secret camera just watching us and judging us at all times. It kind of reminds me of the show Big Brother. I used to watch that a lot growing up, which maybe watching this type of reality television is what kind of amplified this feeling inside of me. Just feeling like somebody is constantly watching you and observing you and analyzing every small move that you make. Which now that I'm thinking about it, I wonder how the people in these shows like go back to their day-to-day lives without feeling like they're constantly being watched and judged by other people. Personally, I don't think I could ever do that, but that's an interesting thought. But we do not live on the set in the television show of Big Brother. There is not a camera always watching us. Not a literal camera, I guess. There's just your camera in your own mind, and you're the only person that's actually rewatching all of this footage. When I first started to wonder where this originally came from, I used to always think that it was just insecurity because it does feel like insecurity. You're questioning the way that that you laugh, the way that you look, the comments that you might make, a text that you might make, the outfit that you're wearing. And I'm a really insecure person. I'm really insecure about like my acne, my makeup, my laughs, parts of my personality, whether or not people think I'm cool, whatever it may be. But this is a little bit different than just plain old insecurity because in the moment it feels like, oh, I'm so anxious, I'm so self conscious, everybody's judging me. But that belief actually requires you being the main event in a room full of people who each think that they are also the main event. And instead of it being about just plain old insecurity, it's something called the spotlight effect. And the deep root of the spotlight effect really is just an ego wearing anxiety's clothes. It's your brain doing that most self centered thing that a brain can do. It's the assumption that you think everybody else is just as obsessed with you as you are obsessed with yourself. And I know saying obsessed with yourself is kind of silly, but think about it. We all are in our own minds. We see things from our perspective. Of course, we know how to see things from other perspectives, but at the end of the day, our life and what's going on around us is all about us. How we think, how we feel. We're getting full access to everything about us. So it's hard to remember that other people are also feeling this exact same way. They are also basically their center of their universe, and they're just thinking about themselves, not us. Which this ties back to my belief and something that really helped me with my growth that I'm more of the problem than I think I am. Because if all of this is rooted in something that I personally am doing, I personally am believing that other people are obsessing over me, but in reality, it's just me obsessing over myself. If I'm the person in control of that, then that also means that I have the control to reframe the way that I'm thinking. So it's kind of a hard pill to swallow, but it's also like the best news ever to realize that you do have that full control over something. So let's get back to what the spotlight effect actually is. And a little bit of sciencey here. It was named in the 2000s by three different researchers in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. So they took some college students and they made them put on a t-shirt that they believed to be scientifically confirmed to be embarrassing. And then they took this person that was wearing this t-shirt and they put them in a room full of a bunch of other students. And then afterwards, they asked the wearer, what percent of that room do you think noticed your shirt? And the wearers guessed all about like 50%. So 50% of this room full of people noticed this embarrassing shirt that I was wearing. But when they asked the people who were there if they noticed that weird shirt that he was wearing, only 25% of them actually noticed it. And a result of this experiment, it shows that we mathematically are twice as noticed in our own head than we are in the literal room that we're questioning in the first place. But it doesn't just stop there. There's two more findings in this paper that is just super interesting. So receipt number 1, they ran it again with a shirt that wasn't even embarrassing. I believe the shirts were Bob Marley, a Seinfeld, somebody was wearing an MLK shirt, and it was just something on a shirt that you would want to be noticed, like some type of graphic t-shirt. And the wearers all still guessed 50%. But when they asked the people in the room, fewer than 10% of people noticed this shirt. So they were thinking it was 50% of the people. It was less than 10%. So this isn't really a question about shame that we should put on ourselves. It's just the fact that our brain overestimates the spotlight that we put on ourselves for the stuff that you're proud of. And then receipt number 2 here is that they extended this experiment past just a visual shirt of something that's embarrassing and then something that somebody is proud to be wearing that might just stand out a little bit more to something that somebody says. And again, the same exact results. It is not just for something embarrassing that somebody might have said, but like something good that they had said. So even for a good joke, people still assume that 50% of people would remember that past the interaction that they just had, when actually less than 10% of people even notice the good joke too. Same for the good and the bad, which just goes to show that it truly doesn't really matter how we act, if it's embarrassing, if it's not embarrassing. If we're staying true to ourselves, honestly, less than 10% of people, less than 20% of people, it sure as hell is less than 50% of people around us aren't going to remember it past the moment that we had said it. And of course, this experiment was in the early 2000s, before I was even born. And now now we're here in 2026 and we have to consider social media. Every single time that I speak about a concept in psychology or human behavior, everything, I think it's really important to mention social media because it's something new developing that is so crucial to everything that we've already learned in the past. Now, this experiment was one room, it was one afternoon, but imagine that same broken instinct that we have in our minds, but the room is everyone that you've ever met and everyone that you've never met on the internet, and this room never closes. You post a story and check who watched it, and somewhere in there is a person whose opinion you've built an entire courtroom around, and they saw it for 1 second on the toilet and then moved on with their day. The spotlight effect built a stadium, and you're performing for a crowd that's looking at their own phone. As somebody that comes from a small town in Indiana, I know a couple of people personally from my hometown that also post on social media, and I'm sure they all feel the same way, where I just automatically assume that everybody is just watching everything that I post and is just laughing and just talking about me in every conversation they have with anybody else that might know me or might not know me, but just that I'm the center of their conversation because I'm trying to make something of myself online because it is like fully available online on actual repeat. Like, this isn't just a moment in real time that I said something embarrassing. This is a video that I'm putting on the internet that is embarrassing that somebody could save to their phone and actually replay it over and over again. But even then, those people still do not care enough to sit there and rewatch this video over and over again. If somebody didn't like the video that I watched and they knew me from my hometown, they would probably watch it once and then they would just simply scroll away. It's like I'm thinking that these people are fully centering their entire life and their mood and their thoughts around me, when in reality, they're probably just laying in bed doom scrolling and are just gonna scroll right past it anyways. I'm sure by now you guys are probably thinking of all of the times that you have thought that somebody's thinking of you more than they actually are. And a lot of them now, especially for the people in their 20s, kind of like newer to drinking ish, a lot of the things that we're thinking about probably involved some form of alcohol. I personally get really bad hangxiety because I just get anxiety in general. And so after I drink, it gets like 10 times worse. And when you drink alcohol, your memory just is not on point because you are cognitively impaired in that moment. So you don't even have the full details of what you might have said or how you might have walked or the way that you laughed or did you trip. So when you wake up the next day, you can't even fill in the blanks in your own mind and you automatically assume that everybody else is judging you too. So this is just something to remember for my anxiety people, that it probably is just a spotlight effect. And you're probably not that important to the other people that were around you. And that's the part that stings, but that's also the part that completely sets you free in this way of thinking. Nobody is watching you that closely. But I know, like me, like you, like us humans, we probably want them to be. Because being watched means at least I mattered to the room. But I'm here to say that you don't need somebody to replay something that you did over and over again in their head, whether it be good, whether it be bad, embarrassing, cringe, for you to have mattered. You were simply there in the moment. You might pop up in their mind once in a while, depending on who this person is, but you're not important enough to sit in their mind on replay, taking their time, their energy, their thoughts away from what they're supposed to be doing. I promise you, you're probably not important enough to take them away from that. And I personally am a very observant person. I analyze people. That is the way that my brain feels safe, especially when I'm in social events, because if I can understand how other people are socially, then I can grow my skills in the social world as well, because I do get really socially anxious. And so I also have this projecting idea on top of the spotlight effect. So if you are somebody like that as well, where you are having a debrief with somebody about some girl that you were hanging out with, or a text that somebody sent, or an outfit that somebody was wearing to a party, because you are a little bit judgmental or you are just a little bit more observant than the typical person, there's this idea that you're also projecting onto people plus the spotlight effect. It's kind of like a mixture of both of them, because in our minds, if we can sit here and talk about people, then we automatically assume that everybody somebody else is doing that too. Again, it's that perspective of, well, this is how my brain works and this is how my thought processes work. That must be how everybody else's brain and thought processes work. So if you also do that whole projection side of things too, like me, just remember to take a step away from that and realize that not everybody does that. Not everybody thinks about other people so deeply. Not everybody analyzes social interactions of other people so deeply. That might just be something that only a handful of people do. So it might feel like I'm being a little bit negative on us, but it's really not. I swear that you all are important in your own way. I just promise you that the small cringe thing that you might have said like a few years ago at a party is not important enough for somebody else to remember. I promise you that the people of value in your life are actually going to think of better qualities of you than a joke that might have not landed like 2 years ago. So, I leave every single podcast with a piece of homework because we all do this. Even if you're confident, if you're self conscious, at some point in time, we all do this. And you can stay here and you can listen to me talk about it all day. You can understand the experiments and the science behind it. But until you take something and actually apply it to your life, it's probably not going to change. And you're probably just going to keep doing this anyways and just spiral into sadness and negativity. So this week's homework is going to be 3 steps. Step 1, you are going to name that one thing from this week or last week, whatever is bugging you on your mind, that you are convinced the entire room noticed and is replaying in their head. It could be the comment, an outfit, your laugh, a post. Just pick one thing that you are holding on to in your mind. Step 2, now run their tape, not yours. Who would have actually noticed it, and for how long would they have noticed it? Best case, somebody noticed it for maybe 4 seconds, and then they went right back to worrying about their own things in their own mind. And then just like the experiment, for however long you think somebody might have noticed you or replayed this in their mind, cut it in half. This is the trade because the spotlight costs you something, and I want you to take it back. One thing that you've been avoiding because of the imaginary audience. Do it this week, do it with purpose, do it with intention, and do it while nobody is watching. Because guess what? Probably nobody is, and that's the lesson of the entire podcast today. The word this week is the spotlight effect. The feeling that the room revolves around you. You're not the main character in other people's stories. And I need you to hear that and understand that as the relief that it is. Thank you so much for listening again, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday. And as always, remember to live with care.